Welcome back to Go With Us, and we're about to get muddy with Wooper Community. This is the official November Community Day, and it's a really cool one because we have two forms of Wooper that's going to be spawning in the wild, of which one of those forms we've never seen before, and it's going to be making its debut in Pokemon Go on Community Day. Let's kick off with one of the featured Wooper of this Comm Day. Regular Wooper. Wooper is a ground and water type originally coming from the Johto region. Remember that you can evolve Wooper into a Quagsire using 50 candy, and the other Wooper that's going to be spawning on this day is going to be the Paldean Wooper, which is going to be the first time we've seen it in Pokemon Go. Interestingly enough, this Paldean Wooper is actually a ground and poison type, which is a really interesting type. Not many Pokemon have this type, and it evolves into Clodsire using 50 candy as well. If anyone wants to know why they actually have two forms, research shows that Paldean Wooper actually used to live in the water all the way back in ancient times, but unfortunately they were forced out of their territory, and now they had to start to move onto land, namely living in marshes, and they actually adopted two ways to survive on land. The first way is that their gills started to harden, but the second way is that they coat their bodies in this poisonous film, which keeps it from drying out. How amazing is that? Apparently, Paldean Wooper travel in packs of 3 or 4, and they get ferried across bodies of water using their bigger brother, Clodsire, which is of course shares that ground and poison typing. Let's run through the details quickly. It looks like this Comm Day will be happening on November 5th, which is this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. local time. A great thing here is that both Woopers, the regular Wooper as well as the Paldean Wooper, are going to be shiny for the first time. Of course, we've been able to get that regular Wooper in the game for a long time now, but that shiny Paldean Wooper is also making its Pokemon Go debut on this Comm Day, which is fantastic. Remember that shiny rate on Comm Days is always going to be 1 in 25. The main bonus of this particular Wooper Comm Day is going to be quarter egg hatch distance. There's going to be 2 times catch candy, 3-hour incense duration, and there's also going to be 3-hour lure module duration, but remember that does not include that golden lure. There's going to be 2 times the likelihood of trainers receiving Candy XL when catching Pokemon. Trainers can take a total of 5 snapshots to get photobombed by regular Wooper and Paldean Wooper, and remember those Woopers can be shiny too. Remember that trades are going to cost 50% less Stardust. I believe that's right up from 2 to 10 p.m. that day, and you're also going to be able to do 1 extra special trade, which takes us to a total of 2. Guys, do not sleep on this. As we've said before, we've seen some trainers get some magnificent results from doing this. Field research tasks are going to reward us with regular Wooper and a Paldean Wooper. That 100% IV is going to be 275. We can also get some Ultra Balls, some Great Balls, and extra Stardust too. As always, there's going to be a $1 Community Day special research ticket, and that is going to be called Muddy Buddy, and that's going to reward us some extra premium awards such as some lucky eggs and some incenses, but we're also going to get some encounters with Wooper and that Paldean Wooper. After the Community Day ends, there's going to be 4-star raids, which are going to feature Wooper and Paldean Wooper, which is interesting because in the past, they've always featured the 2nd tier evolution in these raids. Remember that these raids are a little bit more difficult than they look. We would recommend using about 2 to 4 trainers, and if you manage to defeat that Wooper raid within a 300-meter radius for the next 30 minutes, Wooper and Paldean Wooper are going to be spawning around that gym, and remember that the shiny rate is still going to be live with 1 in 25. The featured moves of this Comm Day are pretty interesting. Let's start off with the regular Wooper. If we evolve Wooper into Quagsire before 10 p.m., we're going to be able to get the legacy move Aqua Tail. We're going to talk about in a little bit if this is actually worth it, but on the Paldean Wooper, if we evolve the Paldean Wooper into Clodsire, we're going to be able to get Megahorn, which is a really hard-hitting bug type move. In PvP and the Go Battle League, Quagsire and Clodsire are really good, and there's definitely going to be a shakeup in the meta. Just to talk about rankings very quickly, the regular Quagsire is going to be ranked 33 currently, and the Shadow form is ranked even better with a current rank of 24, which is fantastic. But the Clodsire, which is of course making its debut into these rankings, is going to have a current ranking of 11, which is fantastic, guys. Like we mentioned earlier in the video, that poison and ground typing is a really interesting one, and not many Pokemon share that same typing, which is probably why it's going to do very well in these leagues. But does Aqua Tail work on Quagsire, and does Megahorn work on Clodsire? Unfortunately, they are actually not recommended on either of them to use in the Go Battle League, which is pretty interesting. However, On the shadow form of that Quagsire, it is actually recommended that that Aqua Tail could do some really good work because it just charges really quickly and it gives it some nice coverage too. But unfortunately, none of those moves are optimal, but PvP Poke suggests to actually use the Sludge Bomb and Earthquake on the Clodsire and still that Mud Bomb and Stone Edge on the Quagsire. Moving on to our top tips, there's only going to be 3 we're going to suggest here, but tip number 1 is definitely going to be to start off always with the number of balls in case you run out of Pokeballs while trying to catch these Wooper on calm day. Remember, these calm days have increased spawns everywhere. There's such a high chance that you could run out of balls, so we really suggest playing in a dense area where there's lots of Pokestops and you can almost walk in a kind of circular flow. Tip number 2 is definitely going to be focused on using Mega Pokemon. As we've mentioned before in a previous video, guys, there seems to be a lot of complaints around the accessibility of XL Candy in Pokemon Go, and while these 2 Pokemon, such as Clodsire and Quagsire, while they don't really need XL Candy in the game because they don't have much utility beyond the Great League, it's pretty important to try and get XL Candy at every opportunity. So the top Mega Pokemon we would definitely recommend using is a Mega Steelix. You can use Primal Groudon, but the one we would probably recommend first is definitely going to be that Mega Swampert because of that water and ground typing. That ground typing is going to hit that Paldean Wooper as well as the regular Wooper. And tip number 3 is going to be focused on that quarter egg hatch distance. While it still remains in the game, we definitely recommend going in there with 12 kilometer eggs. The reason why is that you can hatch these eggs on a star piece and you can get up to, if you're lucky, 100,000 Stardust in literally 60 seconds because you can just keep tapping that screen and hatching those eggs and they're going to be multiplied because of that star piece. Such a great way to get easy Stardust in Pokemon Go, so go after it, guys. It's going to be a great tip to use on this day. Guys, November is looking stacked. We've just done a wrap up of that Dia de Muertos event, some really great Stardust in that event. We've got the Festival of Lights coming up, which we're looking forward to breaking down for you guys. And we've also done a new Shadow Pokemon breakdown. If anyone wants to check that out, please check out it up here. Remember, Go With Us is going to be with you guys for everything. So guys, go with us, and we'll be sure to see you on the next one, baby.